Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests, with host Christina Nichman.
Beauty's on a mission, and Heather Jadis is determined to educate you, your daughters, your mothers, and all the women about the dangers of harmful chemicals that are in your personal products. The cosmetic industry is completely unregulated. In fact, there has not been a single law passed governing the cosmetic industry since 1938. Sounds scary? It should. Find out how Heather can help you by empowering you with the knowledge to make healthy personal product choices by going to Heather Jadis, that's JADUS.com. Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nichman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Our guest today is Ruschelle Khanna, author of 30 Days of Prayer, Healing Autoimmunity for Women. Since 2001, Ruschelle has worked as a psychotherapist in Manhattan, helping women restore their health and vitality to their lives. In early 2014, she was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease and began experiencing autoimmune reactions to food. Since then, she has focused on our personal healing, as well as this wonderful new book, a devotional and collection of reflections and activities and prayers. To find out more about Ruschelle and her new book, visit 30daysofprayer.org. Hey, Ruschelle, welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm great.
Well, we are happy to have you out here today because we are getting set to have your book launch as part of our premier networking interviewing events that we just started last month. And we're so excited to have you featured as our second guest for our live interview networking event. And you will be talking about your new book, 30 Days of Prayer, Healing Autoimmunity for Women. So it's a fascinating story, which people will get to hear a much deeper, impactful story at the event. But we wanted to have you on today to fill them in a little bit about this upcoming event and how you came to even writing this book. How did it come about for you?
So in March 3rd of last year, I was going about my day. I had just come back from the gym and I was weightlifting. I was lifting a lot of weights. I was doing CrossFit and I noticed that something wasn't quite right in my neck and my back. And I thought, I must have pulled a muscle or something. And then over the course of the next few hours, my body began to completely fall apart. And I started to have severe muscle spasms. It got progressively worse. And over the course of 2 weeks, it continued to get worse. I couldn't walk. I was having severe, shocking nerve pain through my entire body. I lost my vision and my hearing. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was in and out of the emergency room. Nobody knew what was happening to me. I was having just a complete and total breakdown. And I thought that I was dying.
Wow.
So the course of 2 weeks happened and I ended up an osteopath. I found an osteopath who would see me and do a bit of manipulation on my back. And she ended up at least stabilizing me and taking me out of a little bit of pain. Her, as well as I was seeing an acupuncturist at the time as well. So between my osteopath and my acupuncturist, they at least stabilized me so that I could sleep and start eating again. And then over the next few months, I came to discover, after many doctors telling me there was actually nothing wrong with me, that I had a systemic infection. I have Lyme disease. And I knew nothing about Lyme disease. And I just kind of entered this whole other world of finding out about systemic infections, how they impact people, how you are treated in Western medicine when you have a systemic infection. And from that, the book doesn't recount my story. The book focuses on healing, but that was where the story came from, was just this entire breakdown of my body.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, how does the Western medicine, conventional medicine, approach systemic affection and such and Lyme disease? How do they approach it?
Well, we don't generally have very good testing. So the first part is finding it. It's very difficult to find out if you have a systemic infection. And when I say that, Lyme disease can be a couple of different things. It can be one, the specific infection that was found in Lyme, Connecticut, or it can be a catch-all for a number of different types of co-infections. For example, Bartonella, or better known as cat scratch fever, can be captured under that term of Lyme disease, because a lot of times we contract Lyme disease from a tick. Mm-hmm. And the tick carries many, many infections. There are hundreds of strains of the Lyme infection, but our testing only catches a few of them about 30% of the time. So finding it is the first barrier to treatment. And then once you find it, we really don't have effective ways of treating it unless it's caught very, very early.
So if anyone, because as you say, there's many different varieties of infection, that means there could be many different ways in which it presents itself.
Well, because it is a systemic infection, that means that it resides in your blood and can reside in your organs as well. So yes, our bodies can be affected in numerous different ways, but one of the most common ones is fatigue. I didn't have that symptom. Actually, that was one of the only symptoms that I didn't have was fatigue. But that's one of the more common ones. And you can have any number of type of autoimmune diseases. That's why I wrote my book about autoimmune diseases, because your immune system is trying to figure out how to combat this problem, this bug, this infection that is all through your body, and it doesn't know what to do with it.
Wow. And I don't know about you, but almost everyone I know over the age of 40 is coming to me lately, friends and all, just telling me I have some type of autoimmune issue, whether it be a hyperthyroid or, Crohn's disease or colitis. And it just seems overly extreme. Why is it that our whole environment or society seems to be coming up with a lot of autoimmune issues?
Well, I come from there are a few different reasons why people begin to have autoimmune diseases. Some of us are more genetically predisposed to autoimmunity, but that's certainly probably not the most common. The most common is currently our reactions to our food and our lack of attention to our intestinal system and our poor gut health at the moment. And then another one is systemic infections that are not really looked at and taken as seriously or as maybe they should be. So one is having these problems that are not really addressed right away, like infections. Two is our diet. And then the other is just that, some of us are born with weaker immune systems than others, and we need to focus more on taking care of building up our immunity.
Mm. And that's interesting for me because I lived back in Far Rockaway area a number of years ago, and it was like everyone in my area and neighborhood were getting sick with stomach issues. We were getting a lot of running to the bathroom. And at first we all thought, okay, what is it? It's not a big thing. We all got sick or something. But I started to notice over a period of time, we're all having digestive issues. And it turned out to be in the water. And so I think it's interesting that you mentioned gut issues and gastro issues, because I think that might play a big part in what a lot of people are not paying attention to. You might get a lot of gas or bloating or running to the bathroom thinking, oh, I'm getting older. What can some people do, or starting to notice some maybe rather weird symptoms? How can they approach working on their health and getting back to full wellness?
Well, now we have a lot of people that are actually doing a lot of things at home to try to reverse autoimmune diseases, and they're being really successful at it. One of the most well-known women is Terry Walls. Terry is a medical doctor. She had multiple sclerosis, and doctors conventional medicine really is under the impression that you cannot be cured of multiple sclerosis. However, Dr. Walls has started a research fund. She has written books on how she reversed her multiple sclerosis. And now she has gained a lot of popularity and is doing extensive research on just eliminating triggers to autoimmunity: wheat, gluten, dairy, sugar, and focusing on eating foods that sustain our digestive system and build up our digestive tract. So there are tons of resources on autoimmune diets that will reverse and heal your gut.
Yeah. And I've heard more and more from a lot of people I've talked to how gluten in particular has really messed up their systems, whether they have digestive issues or other autoimmune issues, because I've even heard even thyroid issues are being affected by gluten and such. Why do you think that is, though, that in particular gluten and dairy are such a trigger?
Well, there's a lot of science and research going into why gluten and dairy are a trigger. And I guess the most simplistic way that I can explain it is that when we eat when we eat gluten, it tears away, and this is a very basic explanation, but it starts to tear away at the lining of your intestines. And on a very, very small level, it puts these little scratches and holes in the intestine, allowing the barrier between our digestive tract and the rest of our bodies, our blood, to take on toxins. So leaky gut syndrome is literally when your intestines begin to leak out things that should not be in the rest of your body. Dairy is an inflammatory food, and that's pretty common knowledge. If you have a cold or if you're trying to recover from an illness, even the conventional doctors will tell you need to cut back on the dairy because it produces mucus. And when we're healing our gut, we don't need any more mucus forming in our body than we already have. And mucus also forms in the gut and in the digestive tract. It also is in your lungs, obviously. So those are things that are not conducive to helping the body heal.
Wow, this is so fascinating and hopefully really helpful to anyone out there thinking I'm feeling wonky and need some help. Hopefully they'll go out there and talk to a physician or a health professional that can help them. Now, I heard you mention after writing this book that getting sick was actually one of the best things that ever happened to you. Explain why this is.
Yes, when I tell people that this was one of the best things that happened to me, they just kind of look at me very strangely. But it was the best thing that happened because in the midst of my severe pain, and I was having encephalitis pain, my brain felt like it was on fire. It felt like I had a flame about 2 feet above my head. I was having severe, shocking pain throughout my spinal cord. And in the midst of that experience of months of just wanting to be taken out of pain, I had, for lack of a better word, an awakening experience. And I had been a meditator since I was 12. And I had just woke up and I just experienced an overwhelming sense of clarity, and clarity that one, I could take myself out of pain, and two, that my body, I was more than my body. And from that moment on, in that moment, I just remember thinking and experiencing that I'm amazing. I'm amazing for being able to experience this, and I'm amazed at the capacity of my body to withstand things and to experience things on such an intense level. And from that point on, I knew that I was going to be fine. And no matter what happened to my body, it could continue to be in pain or it could get better. It didn't really matter because I was more than my body.
Wow. And I'm hearing you say that, and I know I've heard people say that, but I think until you have your own experience and have that own clarity, that you can hear the words, but it doesn't really resonate with your soul and your inner knowing until you have your own experience.
I think that's true. Yes, I can. to the best of my ability, I try to verbalize what exactly happened to me, but I just, I can't. I'm forever grateful and forever changed for the fact that I became that ill.
Yeah. I've heard of people who have died, had a near-death experience, and they say the same thing. It's like, I can try to tell you what it was like when I actually ended up in heaven and spoke to the Lord, but my experiences of trying to put it into human words, it's just not going to do it justice. I can try, I can write a book, but it's just not the same. You have to have your own experience in your own shape, whatever it is for you. So now that you mentioned that, what has been some of the greatest changes that have happened perspective-wise and in your life period since you've been diagnosed with Lyme?
So that was the reason why I wrote the book, was because out of this came an incredible, I thought that I was a confident person before, but I have accumulated so much more confidence since that experience happened, and things have seemed to fast forward in my life. Things that I planned on doing, in the next 5 years, I will do this year. And writing a book was one of them. I'd wanted to write a book for a long time and really, had some decent ideas. I'm a psychotherapist. I see and hear interesting things but nothing really came together with such clarity. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was talking to my prayer partner, actually, that she's one of the reasons why I wrote this book. And I told her, nothing will bring you clarity like being shocked for 2 weeks straight without being able to sleep. I mean, how you can't come out of that without more clarity, I'm not really sure. So as soon as I started to feel better, I knew that I wanted to share my story and also share specific ways that other people could overcome pain.
Wow. So from all of that you've been through, this journey of going through this, what would you say has been your greatest takeaway from all of this?
That you have complete and total control over your pain. And I have met and spoken with a lot of women since I wrote the book and since I've started to speak publicly. A lot of people tell me that they can't be healed, and a lot of people come to me with chronic pain. And while I respect everyone's journey and their experience of being sick, I know that I can be healed. I know that we can all be healed from anything. It is possible. Now, whether or not in your experience and in your life you have the opportunity to physically heal, that's another thing. But it is possible. And then the next is that pain is a complete and total psychological experience. And you have no idea your capacity until you actually set your mind on focusing on it. And pain is just one of those things that you can absolutely have control over.
Wow. I've never heard it said quite like that. And I just heard something yesterday that, we've heard the phrase, what you focus on, you bring to light. That the focus, by truly focusing on it. So you have a problem. You keep focusing on the problem, focus on the problem, focus on whatever the issue or problem you think you're having. And you just bring more of that into your experience. Is that the same of what you're saying about pain in particular?
Yes. There's a distinction, though. I don't think that it's helpful to deny or ignore or suppress or put away pain. I think it's very important to just acknowledge that it's there and then learn how to use it and experience it in a way that it doesn't run over your life. And one of the things that I said at a talk I gave recently was that it's my pain, actually, and I have the opportunity to do with it whatever I please. And it's not something that I'm at the mercy of. It is something that inspires me and propels me to do better things in the world. So it's an energy. It's not something that runs over me on a daily basis like it did in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this because this is a message of empowerment. That means anything in your life, regardless of whether it be pain or any other circumstance that enters into your life that might not be what you feel is the best thing possible in your life, not something you'd like to see in your life, that you can take that opportunity to make it into lemonade, as it were, and make it into something positive. You have that choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So through all of this, have you had anyone that's in particularly inspired you through this journey and helped you through it?
I have had many people that have helped me and inspired me. I've come across, I've been forever grateful and inspired by, first, the doctors that told me that I wasn't going to get better. I appreciate their opinion and that their feedback in letting me know that I was in the wrong place and that I needed to keep looking. And I did keep looking, and I have wonderful Western doctors. I have a wonderful Chinese physician. So I'm forever appreciative to Chinese medicine because it has been the backbone of my being healed physically. But beyond that, the reason why I wrote the book was because my church and the faith community that I grew up in, which is the Christian community, they set the stage for me to begin to heal. I reached out to a church because I thought that I was dying, and they provided me with someone who would come and pray with me on a weekly basis. And if it wasn't for her, for the woman who has been praying with me, I would have never had the strength to look for all of the practical things that I needed to heal. So those are the personal people. And also, just kind of on a broader perspective, Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has a podcast. He's the author of The 4-Hour Workweek. He is someone that I just admire and respect so much because he wants to do everything efficiently, and he's always learning. And then I also found out this year that he had also contracted Lyme disease. Yeah. So he has kind of been through the same experience, and he talked about it as well on his podcast about his journey through healing. And I'm always inspired by people that are looking to do things efficiently.
I love that you mentioned that the broader perspective that often doesn't get a lot of attention, which is dealing with the spirit. I think when you deal with the spirit and bring God into it, or for whomever, that's for me and you, we're both Christians, but for anyone out there, bringing the spirit into call when you're dealing with the crisis can help you go forward in a more healing fashion. And then the more practical, hands-on, day-to-day stuff can start making sense and help you through that stuff.
Yes. If I wasn't centered in meditation and prayer, I would be all over the place. And that was the purpose for the book as well, was to give women a sense of grounding. They have 30 days where they can just take 10 or 15 minutes on focusing on what is most important. And I give a lot of ideas and tips, but I'm not offering medical advice. I'm just offering a structure for you to get a grasp around how you can start feeling better.
Yeah. And I really, really also like, and I'm loving your message here because it's so positive. You immediately started with that the Western doctors who first gave you the wrong diagnosis or whatever let you know that you were in the wrong place. There was no blame or put upon them, because often I've heard people come on the show or tell me their story where they're talking about a bad situation in their life, where they're blaming situations or people for how their life turned out. And there's no empowerment in that. By you just saying, hey, these guys showed me that I was not in the proper place and now I could keep looking, that puts you in a place of empowerment and healing.
Yes. And that's not to say that I wasn't angry.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah. Because I did, I got plenty angry. But yes, they're just doing the best that they can as well with the information that they have. And we all have limited information, but I know my body better than anybody else. And at the end of the day, I'm thankful to live in a country where I can make a decision about where I want to go and get treatment. And so that as long as I have that ability, then I'll take control of my own health.
That's fabulous. That's awesome. What is the grand vision for your life and for your business going forward?
My year is full of just continuing to share my story. I would love to be able to speak in more churches. And the grand vision with the book was that it could be used as a tool in church groups as a support. So if women wanted to form healing communities within their church, I would love to come and speak to churches about how they can do that, how they can set it up, and how to use the book as a resource. So that is my mission for the year, and I'm so excited.
I'm so excited too, because this is a huge event we have coming up on May 23rd with a whole bunch of sponsors coming out to support the launch of your book. It's so exciting. It's going to take place at Tournesol in Manhattan. Tell us more about the upcoming event, the sponsors we have lined up. It's so exciting.
Oh, wow. I've actually spent the whole morning thinking about it as well. I'm really, really excited. First of all, the space is gorgeous. Carrie Davison at Tournesol Wellness, it just has a lovely space and a wide array of alternative treatments and therapies that I'm excited to get in there and try myself. The event we're going to have lots of sponsors and vendors. I have all natural makeup companies. I have yummy food that's good for women with autoimmune diseases. We have essential oils that are going to be featured. Just lots of different stuff to nurture your body. You'll get to pick up a copy of my book if you'd like. We'll be there to answer questions about that, and also to share again my story and all of the things that helped me heal along the way, as well as food, prayer, having a supportive, loving group of people around me. I'm really excited. It's going to be a really good day.
Wow. Well, I'll just run through the sponsors here. We have Heather Jadis of Beauty on a Mission. We have Jane Lorenz of CYA Aprons. Really awesome, guys. You're going to love it. We have Winty Aviation T-shirt Art, who doesn't just do aviation T-shirts. They do graphic design. We have Christy Fletcher of Modern Wellness. We also have some contributors, the Paleo Mom and Exo. Explain a little bit about Exo.
Yes, Exo are protein bars that are made from cricket flour. And I actually just tried one this morning. It was delicious.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to trying that. And we also have two sponsors that just signed up this past 2 weeks, and that is Bruce Marciano of Marciano Ministries. They're coming on over. And we also have this morning a Regina Huber, who is a wonderful coach who's also going to be on there to join us and help us celebrate. During this event, we're going to focus on what part does autoimmunity play in our modern day life, what causes some autoimmune responses in your body, how can we manage the intense pain if you're going through pain at this moment, what are some of the ways you can bring your body into full wellness, how can prayer and community build a gap from illness to complete wellness, and how can illness be used as a catalyst to awaken your life to its fullest extent. So it's going to be an exciting day. So everyone, please come on out. You can get your free tickets at bit.ly/savvyevent, 2. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there on May 23rd, Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So before we head on out, Ruschelle, is there any last word you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yes, I actually just wanted to remind the audience that in the words of Louise Hay, who I love and just appreciate immensely, that if you're going through an illness and they say there's no cure for it, or you think that you can't be healed, just remember that just because we haven't found a cure for it yet doesn't mean that there's not a cure out there. And that nothing is incurable. And I just love that, and that it just stayed with me. And when people tell you you're not going to get better, if that's not in your heart and you know that you're going to be healed, then just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Focus on where you want to get to, not where you are now. Focus on the end result. And please come join us May 23rd in Manhattan. You can get your tickets, your free tickets at bit.ly/savvyevent, 2. And again, go get your book ahead of time so you can read it and bring it and have Ruschelle sign it for you. Healing Autoimmunity for Women by Ruschelle Khanna. And thank you again, Ruschelle, for coming to Savvy Central Radio.
Thank you so much, Christina.
One of the easiest ways to allow natural healing is to put aside the toxic medications that we as a society have come to rely on. Millions of people are taking control of their health through the use of essential oils. Over the past 3 years, Modern Wellness has helped countless people across the globe learn how to use essential oils as their first line of defense. You can learn more on their website at modernwellness.com.